Assalamu alaikum. We continue on our chapter servlets and GSPs. So if you remember, we have studied in the first part the 3 points in the outline. Now we are going to focus on the 3 remaining sections where we are going to study how to access databases using different channels. So the first one will be how to access database from Swing. So this is the entire architecture. So we will start at the beginning studying how to use JDBC, and to do so we need to access from a simple Java program to a database. For those that already have experience in accessing database from Java, you can skip this part. The next one will be a web application containing GSP, servlet, and another GSP for viewing the information. But now the servlet will not only or simply forward to the GSP, but before this, it will access a database using JDBC and give the information to the GSP to be shown on the browser. The last one will be, instead of using the regular JDBC, we will use then EGB. For those that have already followed with me in the EGB chapter, you can follow this part. For those that didn't follow, you can skip also the EGB part. In that part, what we will do, we'll have a GSP requesting a servlet, and the servlet will again try to have access database, this time not using the JDBC technology, but using the EGB technology. And then the EGB give back the control to the servlet that will forward the final result to the GSP. So as previously said, I will start using a simple Java program that have to connect to a database. So I'm not going to explain all this in details, but because this is not in the context of the current course, but if you go to this URL, as I will explain here, so you tap this URL, you click on login as a guest, and you will be forwarded. If I tap it again, okay, you will be forwarded to this course about Java, and you go directly to chapter 8 that explains in details how to have access to the database. You have the slides, but you also have a video that you can follow. So if I go back now to PowerPoint, so please follow this chapter to understand how to have access from Java. So the first exercise to implement in this case, you are requested to implement a human resources database containing, for instance, an employees table containing the following attributes: the name, the first name, the name, some ID and a department, and then the program will simply have access, Java program using JDBC, to this database and display the following content in a Swing component. Everything is explained in the chapter 8. Now, what I'm asking you to do, the difference in this second exercise is to have access to the database, but following or respecting the MVC pattern. So the idea here is now to have two tables, one provider table and another product. And we have then a swing view. So the technology will not change. We will again use the JDBC to have access to this database. Okay. And what you will do, you will have three functionalities. The first one will be to display all the providers. The second one will be to display all the products. And the last one will be to display the products of a given provider. And we need to respect the MVC pattern. So how to do so? We will have the view, which will be the swing. It will be a program called, for example, providers products.java. We will have a control, which will be a simple Java program. And we will have a model containing a product.java, a providers.java. These two tables represent exactly the corresponding content of the relational tables stored in a database. So here we have a table called products and another table called providers. So we need to have two corresponding Java classes here. And another ConnectDB, which we realize the connection using the JDBC with the tables I have just mentioned. So our program will contain the following. We will have in NetBeans, for example, we'll have a control package which will contain the control.java class, the model package containing ConnectDB, provider and product, and the view which will contain a swing. Okay. So in the model, we will have a product class containing the ID and the description, exactly what is contained in the table. And then we'll have constructors and getters and the setters of these two attributes. We should do the same also for the provider table. Now we will have the ConnectDB, in which I need to have the implementation of the functionalities I have mentioned. So I remind you that we have talked about here three functionalities: finding all the products, finding all the providers, and finding products of a given provider. This is what we have here: finding all providers, all products, and finding provider by ID, and what we're looking for, finding the product by the ID of a given provider. So they have the first one, the second one, and the third one. These are just in need. Okay, now you can see I have the init here. So the init is exactly the method where I will have all the statements that will have access to the database. I mean, the statement, the connection, the specification of the URL, etc. So everything should be specified in this init. Next to it, here is my swing. So it is a frame, all right, and I have, if you remember, three buttons. So the first one will be the button. Let's start from the simple ones. I have the all providers button, the all products button, and then I have the button for having the products for a given provider. So if you can see here, what I do, in this case, I call my control and ask my control to process a request with number 2 with no information provided. And once the control finishes, it gives me back a list of all the providers as a string representation. And then I use my text area to display this string. In the same way, when I call the button all products, I will call the process request number 3 with no other information, and the control gives me back the list of the providers as a string representation, and this string is used in the text area to be displayed. Okay, now the first one, what I do first, I get from the ID provider text field, I get the text, I use it as an ID, and then I provide my process request method with number 1. Number 1, 2, 3 means this is the call of this button, this is the call of this button, etc. But I provide also the ID of the provider. And then this method gives me back the list of all the products that I use to be displayed. Okay, so it is very simple. Now, what you have to do in the control, what we do first, we first call the connectDB init, okay, and then I switch according to the number I have here. So if it is number 1, I then call my connectDB with the method to find all the products by the ID of the provider, and then use this information to be able to execute the select. I have the list, and then what I do here, I convert my list from products to a string, and then I return this string. The same way, in the second case, if you remember, case 2 was the call of all the providers. So I call the function or the method connectDB find all providers. That gives me back a list of provider, and then I convert this list of providers of products here. It's a small error in the comments. The list of provider to a string, and this string is given back to the swing. I do the same for case number 3. So I remind you that all these methods are not implemented. It's yours to implement this method. So here, find all products. What you have to do, you have to call the statement and then call the select the statement.execute query, and between parentheses you specify your SQL query, select star from products where this and that, and then you it gives you back a result set, and you convert the result set from the result set to a list of products. Okay, remember also that in connectDB init, you have to check whether yes or no your connection is set to null. If it is not set to null, no necessity to make the connection again. If it is null, then you have to call the connect and the statement, and you have to initialize all the parameters. Okay, I think I have explained almost everything. It's a very simple program. So in the next one, we will talk about how to have access from a DB to the database from the servlet using this JDBC.